As a senior vice president, our keynote speaker leads the unit at the SAP User Enablement, which provides a consistent and intelligent enablement for SAP's entire portfolio. She is also the MD of SAP Labs in India, responsible for product development and innovation at SAP's R&D facilities in Bangalore, Pune, Mumbai, Hyderabad, and Gurgaon. Now, what is the relevance of DevSecOps, SRE, artificial intelligence, machine learning, and data science in the context of Industry 4.0? Let's try to understand more in detail our theme of the conference today, and to help us do that, let's now invite onto our screens the lovely lady herself, Ms. Sindhu Gangadharan.
Hi, everybody. Good morning and warm welcome from all the parts of the world that you're joining in. Thank you so much for joining us today at this keynote. What I'll do in the next 1 hour, yes, it's going to be a 60-minute long conversation with all of you, is that I'm going to take you through the relevance of DevSecOps, Development, Security, and Operations, SRE, Site Reliability Engineering, AI, ML, and Data Science, all in the context of Industry 4.0. Now, we'll start with Industry 4.0, and I also want to reflect a little bit on how the pandemic has accelerated the digital transformation agenda across all businesses and across all sectors. Now, as we have seen, the swift spread of the COVID pandemic caused a really heavy blow to the world economy and has brought industries around the world to a screeching halt starting March 2020. So businesses worldwide were impacted on different levels, but there was no single industry which was left untouched by the disruptions caused by the pandemic. According to IMF, the global economy shrunk by 4.4% in 2020, which is the worst, if you ask me, since the Great Depression of the 1930s. And now closer home, the growth rate of India's manufacturing sector plunged to minus 39.3% in Q1 of 2020. And in the manufacturing sector, some of the most impacted industries were metal and chemical products, motor vehicles, machinery and equipment, textiles, and many others. In fact, the automobile sector, which was grappling with the new Bharat Stage 6 regulations, faced an acute shortage of spare parts from China, where factories were shut down following the COVID outbreak. And according to a parliamentary panel report, the Indian automotive industry suffered rupees 2,300 crores loss per day, and an estimated job loss in the sector was about 3.4 lakhs as a direct impact of the pandemic. Now, all of you listening in must be wondering, why am I bringing up these figures during a DevSecOps keynote? Well, if you take a closer look, you'll find that most of our enterprises and businesses across industries lack that agility to adapt to a faster moving environment and also do not have access to data-led insights that empower them to take those necessary actions to tide over a crisis of this kind of magnitude. Which brings me to my next point of digital transformation. Now, in my role, I get to speak to CIOs every single day. And the one single sentiment that's common throughout these conversations is the fact that all of the enterprises today want to accelerate their digital transformation journey. Now, the fact that almost every single industry was exposed to the volatilities caused by COVID-19 has led to this growing demand that we are seeing of faster digital transformation of the intelligent enterprise. So the question is, what exactly is digital transformation? Well, digital transformation is the integration of digital technology into all areas of a business, which results in fundamental changes to the way a business operates. And this transformation affects every level of an organization. And it's really about bringing together data across the areas of your organization to work more effectively. And it's all about taking advantage of workflow automation, advanced processing such as artificial intelligence and machine learning, and using which enterprises can now connect the dots across the customer journey in a way that wasn't possible before. And it creates a way that different functional units within an organization can translate that raw data into insights across the various touch points. And by doing this, it really provides that single view of the customer journey. It provides that view on your operations, on your production, on finance, as well as business opportunities that exist out there. So if you see, data is right at the heart of this digital transformation. And in Industry 4.0, the new systems utilize the advanced technologies, be it cyber physical systems, the IoT, the Internet of Things, 3D printing, digital twins, advanced analytics, and cloud computing. And the industry of the future will clearly harness the power of data, quantum computing, artificial intelligence, and augmented reality, which also brings me to this topic of data is the new oil. And working in technology and data sciences, I'm sure all of you have come across this very popular phrase: data is the new gold, or data is the new oil, or even that data scientists are the new refinery. Now, is it just a fancy marketing slogan, or are these metaphors describing a whole new paradigm that is revolutionizing the world? Now, if you see, data has been around for ages. It's nothing new, right? Starting with the early Sumerian and Chinese writing systems, throughout centuries, we have had data in printed books. And since the 20th century, data has been in digital form on our computer systems. And this is clearly only accelerating further in our present digital era. But if you ask me, there is a catch. While the available amounts of new gold and oil are shrinking, the available amounts of data, however, are increasing exponentially. Though most businesses these days are collecting mountains of data, we know the real benefit is when you can actually use this data, which can be optimized by analysts that can help drive your business forward. And this is where digital transformation comes in. It's really about creating a system for gathering the right data and incorporating that right data for business intelligence at a higher level. Now, it's also important to note that enterprises that manage to capture a huge variety of data and who are also able to transform it into a format which is suitable, that allows you to make those very important decisions based on that data, really have a huge advantage over companies that make decisions based on traditional reporting only. Now, for instance, recently, just reflecting on the current situation, if you look at Israel, Israel gave their vaccine manufacturer Pfizer access to its healthcare database and successfully managed to accelerate its vaccination drive for their citizens. Now, this is a brilliant example of how data is indeed becoming the new gold. However, what is also very noteworthy is the fact that such a large intervention also underlines the fact that potential infringement of privacy and security concerns become very important and become very relevant in the world of big data, which brings me to the next topic, which is all about data security. Now, data security is one of the largest concerns impacting the world today, as these modern age attacks are no longer limited to, say, individual enterprises or individuals themselves. And what we are seeing is a very increased sophistication of cyber attacks. And it's also coupled with the overall lack of cybersecurity, which has also led to some of the greatest data breaches and also the loss of data records on a global scale. Now, all major global powers clearly are under cyber attack or can be under cyber attack, which calls also for countries to join hands to safeguard the future of their digital economies and also to promote global governance in the digital domain. Now, a whole new set of challenges have come up in this, what we call as the new normal that we are all adapting to across the world. One is distributed supply chains, where supply chains pose new security threats. If you look at our present day heterogeneous IT environments, which consisted of multitude of equipments and software suppliers, microservice applications, cloud services, they're clearly likely to face supply chain attacks. Therefore, it's very important and it's a heightened need, if you ask me, for DevSecOps teams to bolster their security architecture, their policies, and also checks to detect and contain such attacks. And open source project repositories are insidious form of supply chain compromise as they clearly encourage contributions from anyone out there, which can also unfortunately include attackers using different identities. The second challenge is third party and weak links. So just like manufacturing facilities out there use third party to or third party providers to manufacture, say, some parts or some components that go into their final product, also digital businesses have adopted the use of third party tools to build parts of their products or full parts of their products, services, and so on. Good examples are payments, analytics, chatbots, the whole advertising or social media integrations. All this is referred to as the shadow code. But what it also brings is new risks to the business and makes it very challenging to protect your very critical data and ensure data privacy. In fact, a majority of the world's most visited websites, have unsupervised third-party JavaScript integrations and lack also adequate cybersecurity controls against Magecart or form jacking, cross-site scripting, and also credit card skimming attacks. The third challenge is also when you're looking into large organizations, a lack of vendor risk management. Now, for businesses to truly secure their supply chains, one must have a very detailed understanding of the kind of risks that vendors and also third parties introduce to their environment. And here, not only should businesses have an organized due diligence process at the time of the vendor selection, but they must also have very strict vendor oversight and a monitoring process. Vendors also need to be ranked based on their risk attributes, be it their reputation, the criticality of the vendor, the financial situation of the vendor, the operational aspects, regulatory aspects, privacy, and legal aspects, and their risk profile must be regularly assessed for any kind of changes. And vendor risk management is a moving target. As risks evolve, your processes also need to evolve. So absence of a flexible risk management process can also pose numerous challenges in managing a very effective program. The fourth thing I'd like to call out is absence of a GRC platform. Now, GRC platform serves as a single source of truth when it comes to managing and also monitoring risks in your supply chain. Now, from a program management perspective, you might be using, say, for example, Outlook, right, to store emails of people who are sending you questionnaires, and then you have an Excel spreadsheet possibly, and this all can become very tedious. Or ticketing systems are another example where a ticket gets closed once an activity is completed, but we all know that the risk management itself is an ongoing process. So having also an active risk management framework is one thing, and but on the other hand, also executing an effective program is also very important. And so the absence of a GRC platform can also derail your entire security program. So in this era of hyperconnectivity, clearly businesses need to adopt solutions to streamline GRC, and this is needed to better position but also to deliver effective cybersecurity across that entire supply chain. I want to bring up this whole topic also. What does it mean in the context of startups, and why startups and SMEs are also becoming very vulnerable? Now, we all know that most startups put all their energies, and rightly so, to lure investors, right? And their primary aim is all about raising that growth capital that is so much needed for them, because it's an intensely competitive market. And in this process, however, what sadly happens is the security of their users' data is sometimes last of their concerns. And I'm not generalizing this, but we've seen this in so many cases. And this also makes them very vulnerable to cyber attacks. And if you look at it from the India technology ecosystem, the pandemic even changed the whole India technology ecosystem, where we've seen numerous homegrown startups going global. And this is also thanks to the initiative of the government of India, the Atmanirbhar Bharat, which focuses on creating a self-reliant nation. Now, unfortunately, a large percentage of these startups had to shut shop right during this phase, mainly because they were faced with severe financial resource crunch, also the rising threat of cyber frauds, and a lot of data breaches. Now, in fact, almost 43% of cyber attacks in India target small businesses. And if I look at the apps and ecosystem and the business space, almost 74% of organizations in India also suffered a ransomware attack in 2020 itself. Now, I can give you some examples. A leading Indian ed tech startup was left completely shocked when their data of over 2.8 lakh students became available for public viewing online. Or even if I look at this example of one of India's largest and most popular e-grocery startup, right? They faced a security breach when their data of almost 20 million users was compromised. Or another example of a hyper-local delivery startup, they became a victim of cyber threat with exposure of almost 3.4 million users' data. Or another edtech startup suffered a data breach in September 2020, compromising data of at least 2 million of their users. Or a payment processing company breached over 35 million records. And this was even one of the biggest cyber attacks that happened in the year. And which brings me to this whole topic, right? Of why some of the emerging technologies are super important and keeping security as a focal point, but also some of these emerging technologies are super important for the success of Industry 4.0. And I want to talk about 6 emerging technologies: AI, ML, IoT, 5G, quantum computing, and digital twins. Now, AI, I think very popular, right? I mean, it's become one of the most disruptive technologies and is clearly revolutionizing the management and also the business models of how organizations are changing. And if you look at its AI's application in Industry 4.0, we're looking at scenarios like the overall equipment effectiveness, OEE, optimization through predictive repair and maintenance, where AI is prominently used. Or Quality 4.0, where you're looking at operational excellence, which is all about continuously improving the production quality. Or when we look at generative design through AI and automation algorithms, which is clearly about simultaneously generating not just one solution, but multiple design solutions for the same objectives. Or robotics combined with AI, right? And collaborative machines that really help support operators to free them from extremely precise tasks. The second topic of machine learning. I mean, here we're talking about sophisticated algorithms that really enable aspects around smart manufacturing and data gathered during production being analyzed, and also the changes are automatically being adapted. Now, deep learning, which is a subset that has evolved from machine learning, is also creating its own neural networks that allows for those unsupervised learning, taking the autonomy of these methods even further. And if you ask me, this gives rise to fundamental benefits for Industry 4.0. You can look at it from a productization optimization, you can look at it from a supply chain integration, or from a company's adaptation to the market needs and also better product development. Now, Internet of Things, it's one of the largest digital mega trend that bridges that physical and the virtual worlds. And here what we're saying is the increasing networking of people, of objects, of machines with the internet is leading to this emergence of, like I said, new business models. Now, as real world IoT implementations are happening very fast, we can see that the promise of Industry 4.0 starting to take shape in the form of be it smart factories, be it in the form of digital supply chains, which are powered by data, by insights, by extreme automation. And more enterprises are clearly leveraging IoT. And also, if you look at the level of sophistication that is also helping many organizations to boost their efficiency, to meet their growing demands, and also drive better customer experiences. Now, if I move to 5G, 5G clearly is also opening the door for Industry 4.0. Because from a speed perspective, we all know 5G is 100 times faster than 4G. And this means it also, the time that was taken to download just one piece of data, right, with 4G now can be downloaded 100 times faster over a 5G network. And the other important aspect what 5G is bringing is also the reduced latency, because latency, as we all know, is the amount of time it takes to send information from one point to another. So when it comes to networks, we are usually talking about the difference between, hey, 20 milliseconds of current 4G networks down to 1 of 5 milliseconds on a 5G network. And which means we are talking about virtually almost making it impossible to perceive that kind of latency, right? Which means systems are basically interacting or reacting in real time, and which also translates into reliable connectivity. And so when you talk about mission and business critical use cases that require that kind of low latency and high performance and high reliability, that's what 5G provides. I also want to touch upon quantum computing. Now, quantum computing is expected to have a $1 trillion value potential by mid-2030s in 5 industries, which include finance, chemicals, pharmaceuticals, TMT, which is technology, media and entertainment, and telecommunications, of course, and automotive. Now, quantum computing for me is not an iterative technology because it has the potential for really transformative and being that disruptive technology. And technologies of this sort can appear at really unpredictable speed, right? And cause that kind of unpredictable impact. The sixth technology I want to call out is digital twins. And really, here the whole idea is by providing companies with a complete digital footprint of their products, the digital twin is what is going to enable them to detect those physical issues much sooner, predict also outcomes much more accurately, and build better products. Of course, we have to look at the massive amounts of data that the digital twin processes. And this is also very, very relevant when it comes to aspects like computing, storage, and bandwidth costs. But all these aspects have diminished dramatically in the recent years. And significantly lower costs and improved power and capabilities around how you handle the data have clearly led to an exponential change, and it's also led to also being able to combine information technology and operations technology to enable the creation and the use of for productive scenarios of these digital twins. Now, I want to switch a little bit also to move on to the relevance of DevSecOps and SRE in Industry 4.0. Now, DevSecOps and SRE are crucial, if you ask me, to the success of Industry 4.0. DevSecOps requires a much broader strategy beyond just application security because it involves also infrastructure operations, security operations, people, most importantly, culture and processes. And the success really depends on also getting that kind of buy-in from across your organization. And if you ask me, enterprise architects are definitely very well positioned to facilitate the kind of organization-wide commitment that's needed and also the organization-wide strategy that's required to effectively implement DevSecOps and to also extend it to whatever the new normal turns out to be. Why? Because enterprise architects are also in a prime position to help achieve that balance that we need between having more applications and more secure applications. And one of the most important thing they can do is to determine where the organization is starting from. Now, in terms of SRE, the practices that are involved in Industry 4.0 clearly put more emphasis on reliability engineers than ever before. And the strongest reliability engineers utilize all available tools and technologies to look at aspects like reduced downtime or unexpected outages, uh, all by creating those very effective asset management practices. And they evaluate the inherent dependability of an application or, for that matter, a business process, identify those what we call as outliers, and also recommend actions to mitigate the impact of those failures. Now, while embracing site reliability engineering, it is also important to constantly monitor, to constantly track, and also measure the application across various metrics to also evaluate its reliability. And some important metrics that come to my mind is things like uptime, the mean time between two and between failures, the mean time to repair, the rate of failure occurrence or probability of failure, and many, many others. And these reliability engineering, of course, also involve a wide range of skills. And one challenge that we also face is the talent gap, right? Because it's a major obstacle for asset centric businesses. And effective reliability engineers today are in very high demand because of the rise of Industry 4.0 and also the changed skill set that is needed to manage asset conditions and also the asset risks. Now, another important factor that adds to this is the remote and hybrid working, right, which is emerging as the future of workforce. And security is once again clearly regaining priority in digital strategies. And chief information security officers are now clearly dispersing that security responsibility throughout the organizations and are also working very hard to transform the IT culture in their organizations. And we are seeing an increase in the number and the sophistication of phishing and ransomware attacks that really exploit remote users, given the hybrid working models, and who unfortunately have weaker security controls on their home systems, but who are also having privilege to access very important company data. So this remote work and also the insider threats that we see clearly underscore the need for more DevSecOps to embed security processes and control throughout an organization's tool chain. And IT decision makers are not only including cybersecurity among their top considerations when it comes to digital transformation, but it is also the second biggest investment priority. In fact, 37%, just below 35%, just below cloud, which is at 37%. And this is what a recent survey tells us, right? So it's pretty high on the agenda. And the challenge for security teams remains on how we add security also at the same speed at which organizations are transforming digitally, and also that to ensure that security spans every new internal digital process, as well as every new product that is being developed or every new opportunity that is being considered. So much of the solution comes down, like I said, to the culture of the IT as well as to the security departments. And there is, if you ask me, no silver bullet to security, right? Because what you need is pretty much a shower of multitude bullets to take care of multiple things. And really, it's about understanding and monitoring all supply chain assets and all the associated risks. It's about knowing what's in your system and when they are in your system and having that documented. And it's also about ensuring that every single employee in your organization understands the sensitivity of your data and also follows the security best practices to also adhere to those regulations. It's about having an incident response plan with regards to when you're dealing with third parties, like I mentioned at the beginning. And you'll need risk registers of technologies, of processes, of resources across your supply chain. And that means also making sure that every single stakeholder is involved in that process. And also, it's about making sure that you have programs and also platforms which are also flexible enough to monitor and evolve around that evolving nature of risks that you have. Now, I want to also switch a little bit to briefly give you a little bit of color on what we do at SAP. Now, for us at SAP, and particularly our focus on in 2021 is all about four key initiatives. First of all, it's about simplifying the security technology stack. It's about improving operational efficiency with reduced reporting requirements. Third is about evolving the product security standard. And fourth, it's about modernizing our tool sets around secure development. And you all know it, also looking at SAP's history, we've transitioned to a cloud based application development platform provider, which also significantly increases the security demands which we are absolutely expected to serve for our customers who run their business critical processes on SAP. And this is clearly for us a multi year effort, right? And this means taking a security first mindset and a very collaborative culture across our teams in order for us to successfully execute. And if you ask me, security for an organization like ours, where we have also very complex but also very diverse technology stacks, very diverse engineering practices, also is super important. And that is why we clearly demand those top security experts who work on our various parts of the portfolio. And cybersecurity, of course, is one of the greatest challenges of our generation, and it's clearly of huge strategic importance for SAP. And this is also why we invest heavily in technology to uplift our defenses, including aspects like a global CIEMs, right? Security Incident and Event Management Framework, and enterprise vulnerability management, and our Crown Jewels project and the improvements around that. And the SAP Global Security is all about embracing and promoting a security minded culture, all with strong collaboration with our developers, with our product managers, our compliance teams, our procurement teams, like I said, with customers, our partners, to drive security beyond just the infrastructure right into the core of our applications. And so we are embedding security across our processes, like I said, including even supporting processes, be it procurement, deployment, development, and so on. And I'm also very proud at SAP Labs here in India, we play an incredibly important role in security by also designing those agile product development practices across our lines of business, and also adopting processes to make our products that we take to market as defect free and as secure as possible for our customers. Now, what I'd like to also take a look at is the top 3 trends, which I believe are something that we all have to watch out for this year and beyond. The first trend is about hyperconnected networks. Now, hyperconnected networks, just also connecting it back to everything what we said, is relying on an infrastructure of networks and IoT to process that information at incredible speeds, right? Because it's all about how do you intelligently connect numerous people, devices, and systems. And these technologies are pushing connectivity further and processing much, much more faster than ever before, enabling those seamless interactions between not just humans, but also autonomous systems. Now, why does it matter? Because I told you at the beginning, the volume of data continues to grow exponentially, and it becomes increasingly essential to gather and distribute and house that data in a secure, in a scalable, and in an accessible way. And that includes data that is sent from one machine to another as well. Now, these hyper-connected networks, which include AI, IoT, blockchain, and many times even drones, can handle data from diverse sources in a very fast, in a very efficient, and in an extremely secure way on a massive scale. And these hyper-connected networks are pushing closer and closer to this notion of ubiquitous connectivity. And so there'll be persistent connectivity everywhere with varying levels of transport low power for low data, and high throughput networks for mission critical applications. And these hyper-connected networks will create a world which is blanketed in connectivity, where dead spots become clearly a thing of the past. The second trend I also want to call out is working autonomy. Now, automation involves transitioning your manual processes into those digital ones by clearly integrating automation, by integrating robotics and your intelligent systems so they operate in unison. Now, working autonomy is the point on the continuum where automation has transitioned from those point solutions to providing broader workflow automations, and by bringing together or gluing together discrete systems to provide fuller end-to-end automated systems. Now, intelligent automations gives your systems the ability to learn from prior decisions and also from those data patterns in order to make those very intelligent decisions on their own, right? Which is freeing people up to focus on other important work. For example, we're seeing this in action already today. Hospitals are using diligent robotics. The Moxie robot is working alongside nurses today. So Moxie takes on tasks like delivering medication and even lab samples so that experts can spend more time directly with their patients. Or another example where industrial companies and those in transportation are using your driverless vehicles where conditions would be unsafe or very tedious or even risky for a human driver. I'm not talking about a fully autonomous business world, right? I mean, that's not yet on the horizon, but instead, multiple industries are clearly developing and integrating and even retrofitting autonomous systems into their value chains. Intelligent automation systems and AI-enabled machines are automating everything from back-end data processing to even ride sharing. And these autonomous systems are gathering large amounts of previously inaccessible data from sensors, from transaction histories, from data from your machines, data which is previously input by humans, and many other sources, and are being used for analytics, for feedback, and all of this which can result in a much better predictive maintenance and much better intelligence. The third trend is extended reality. Now, augmented reality, virtual reality, and mixed reality are a continuum of immersive technologies housed under this umbrella of extended reality, which can merge the physical and the virtual worlds. Now, virtual reality can help business leaders upskill their employees faster, even at a time when we all know, right, training budgets can be shrinking and in-person training is not yet possible, right? And it also enables multiple users to experience the same content, but even with a customized experience, because what I probably experience is different from another person's choice. And design teams can also explore, test, and evaluate different concepts without investing even in physical prototypes. And this can clearly help organizations bring higher quality products to market much, much more faster. And why it matters is because clearly extended reality technologies could potentially deliver a $1.5 trillion boost to the global economy by 2030. And this is also predicted by many of the economists out there. And this value will include areas like if you want to look at new customer experiences, or if you're looking at speeding up your product development, or even fundamental things like improving your workplace safety. Yeah, so a lot of these trends, which I think absolutely call our attention. In conclusion, what I'd like to say is also, if I just reflect back closer to home here in India, the industries in India are also constantly evolving to adapt to the latest technologies. And but unfortunately, what we are seeing is a significant number of Indian enterprises are still shy of moving to the cloud. So it's important to underline that India's National Manufacturing Policy, NMP, aims at enhancing the share of manufacturing in GDP to 25%, and Industry 4.0 and digital transformation clearly is, if you ask me, is the only way ahead to achieve this task. I know I've said a lot, and we talked about a lot of topics, and I'd say that's a lot that we covered today in the time we had. You can always reach me on Twitter, or you can reach me on LinkedIn for anything related to Industry 4.0, or if you're looking at digital transformation of enterprises. It's been great talking to all of you, and I really look forward to staying connected with all of you on the call. And I also look forward to the interesting discussions. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you.